Well, hello and welcome to another Island Images video. This afternoon I'm at a place called Ballaglass Glen. I've done a video here before, but it was just a kind of slow motion of the waterfalls here. So this afternoon's plan is to have a walk through the glen, have a look at the wooded area at the top and then the river areas down at the bottom of the waterfalls. Now about this time of year there's often a really good display of bluebells around here, but I think I may be a bit too early. There's plenty of bluebells along the roadsides coming here, plus primroses, but I have a sneaking suspicion that in the woodland here the bluebells tend to flower later. We'll have a stroll through, we'll start in the woodland area and then we'll head down towards the rivers. I hope you enjoy the video. Well, I'm in the area now where the bluebells grow, and yeah, there are a few around. I'll try and get as close up in a little while, but not many, so I think probably need to come back in a week or two's time to see them at the best. But just carrying on to the path through the woodland at the moment. Well, there are a few bluebells back there. I hope they came out on the video okay. It's a very nice patch of celandines. I think that's what they are anyway here. The yellow flowers. Just see if I can capture them well. Don't know if you heard that at all, as the Manx Electric Railway runs just along the one edge of the glen. It actually has two stations, Cornay and Ballaglass Glen, but the trams have started running this season, and that was one heading from Douglas and then through Laxey, and it's on its way to Ramsey at the moment. A forest worker with an artistic bent here, I think. We're on the top path through the glen here, and up there to the right, if you can see the hill rising, that's North Barrule. It's one of the higher of the hills in the island, and probably the hardest one to actually climb up. Snaefell, believe it or not, although it's higher, is easier than North Barrule and not so far to walk. I'm just going to take a little detour down to the left here. This path goes down to the river, but I'll be coming back up again and continuing along the higher path. But just down here is one of the interesting artefacts in the glen. I always used to think it was a water mill, because there are several around here. In actual fact, it's the remains of an old mine working, which did have a water wheel, but the water wheel was there to power the pumps, and I think to extract the ore from the mine. There's an information board just down here. There's a nice picture of the water wheel and a diagram to explain how it all worked. And that's the actual building just there. There's no sign of the water wheel at all, but just over to the right of the building is an area that's fenced and wired off as apparently as a mine shaft there. Probably capped and probably safe, but they take a lot of precautions with these to stop people falling down. And just down there, in actual fact, while we're here, a nice patch of wild garlic growing. And can't do smell-o-vision, I'm afraid, but it's got a fantastic smell to it. This track we're walking on at the moment, sorry to interrupt the bird song, would have been an old pack horse road, and there are at least two that run through the glen, on either side of the glen, and would be wide enough for take a man and a donkey with its load. And just up on the left somewhere, there's the remains of an old cottage. Long uninhabited, but you can walk down to it if I found the right place and have a look at it. A bit wet and muddy underfoot here at the moment. Well, I think I must have missed the cottage somewhere, because I'm coming back up to the Manx Electric Railway tracks here, and it's definitely before there. So in the winter it's quite easy to see, you can't miss it, but once the undergrowth starts growing up, I'm guessing it's hidden it a little bit, so won't be able to see that one today. I did have a quick backtrack but didn't manage to find it. So here's the tracks of the Manx Electric Railway, and to the right it heads on towards Ramsey, and to the left it's back towards Laxey and then Douglas. Just need to use the tracks as a footpath for a short distance before we head down into the glen again. I'm kind of hoping that a tram might come along so I can include that in the video, but I'll check shortly, see if it's worth waiting for it. So this is the MER Ballaglass station. As I said, there's two that serve the glen. Cornet is at the other end of the glen, so you can actually use the tram to get here. Get off at one stop, have a walk in the glen, and then get back on at the other stop. I think the please close the gate thing is to stop the wild goats getting in. They're very picturesque, but I'd imagine can be a bit of a problem if they decide to spend the night in the shelter. Probably ends up being rather messy. And that's the track snaking around the glen and heading in the Ramsey direction. Well, that's very handy, the tram coming along then, and able to me to get it. So now going to walk down into the glen itself. Quite a steep path here, plenty of steps, but there's some excellent little waterfalls all the way down here. So we'll try and capture some of those. Just hearing the sound of a waterfall over on my left at the moment, which is just underneath the bridge where the electric railway goes across. And you can normally get down there and get a good view of it. It's wild garlic again, growing either side of the path here, and yet again this lovely garlic smell. Unless of course you don't like garlic. And there's a choice of paths at the bottom. You can go either side of the river, and I think I'm probably going to take the right hand path, mainly because of where the light's coming from. I think we get some better shots. If there's a sudden jerky motion, it probably means I've fallen down the rocks I'm climbing down. So I'm down by the river now and turned back towards the bridge that I walked over earlier on the electric railway tracks. I'm going to leave this river behind now. This is the Cornet River, the main river that runs through the glen, and go up into another of the higher paths to join another river. I don't think this one has a name, it's just a sort of tributary of the Cornet River. There's a lovely little cottage up here that was possibly just a crofter's cottage or a woodsman's, I don't know. At one time it was available for rental, but the signs seem to have disappeared. But a lovely location, it's sort of right in the woodland, but the only problem is you have to carry all your baggage from where you park the car to get to the cottage, unless you're a keen hiker, of course, in which case it's no problem. The track here is another one of the pack course roads. I think I said earlier on that there were two of them on each side of the glen, although in actual fact there was a third one that came down through the glen. And I'm not following it today, I'm just crossing it and then following the footpath up through the glen here. Seems to be quite a nice collection of bluebells here actually. So there's probably more light in this area that's encouraged them to bloom a little bit earlier. Well, that's about it. I'm almost back at the car park. And I really hope you've enjoyed our walk through Ballaglass Glen this afternoon. Yeah, there were some bluebells, not as many as I'd hoped, but it's just a beautiful glen at any time of the year. And finish up here by this waterfall just over on my left, that was part of a mill race system. So you possibly saw the building behind it, and that was one of the mills. I think there's at least 3 mills in the glen here, and none of them work these days, or at least one of them has been converted into a house. So okay, lovely to have you visiting, and signing out for now. Bye bye.